I do not want to talk about the character of Benny Hill because this is not within my purview. But there is enough evidence that he has had a number of challenges. He said, we've agreed with my colleague that they are going to retire in 2032, which means if they are together in this particular election, it will be their last bid. And if Rigathi still thinks that he's going to overstretch his chance, his boss may not approve of it.
Truly delighted to have you on Richard Mwenje Exclusive. Indeed, always a pleasure to have you on this ship that is Richard Mwenje Exclusive. And with me is your favorite resident analyst. He's a thought leader, a think tank, and a celebrated governance expert in this country. He has also served as a former cabinet minister in Mwai Kibaki's premier cabinet. He is none other than the first of his name, Ruto Arab Kirwa.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. It's always my pleasure to be with you. And to discuss a number of issues affecting our continent, our nation, and the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And you continue aging like fine wine, today looking sharp.
Richard, you like flattering me.
But it's true.
I hope I'll be... Okay, let me try. You told me there is what we call royal jelly.
Royal jelly, yeah.
Yeah, get it. I can buy a kilo also, so that every morning before I come to the studio, I have a pinch of it.
I surely will get one for you.
Thank you.
Very well. And let me just ask you, and this is from a general standpoint, we've had a major rally the other day, actually crusade, mega crusade at Nyayo Stadium, and we saw many politicians actually flock that venue, the head of state, the first lady, you name it. Were you also part of that crusade? And probably what best came out of it from your analysis?
Well, a number of things. You see, I don't want to sound unchristian or an heathen, but I just want to caution Kenyans that God, in his own wisdom, gives blessings without boundaries. You can never own him. You can never personalize God. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting into an area of sacrilege. Sacrilege in the sense that when you look at one of the clips when he was praying for the president, which we feel it is okay to pray for him, because when you pray for the president and the president is doing well, the country is doing well because he's our chief executive. But when you have to anoint him and you say, this country shall continue to prosper as long as you maintain the same leader. What are you saying? In the absence of William Ruto, Kenya is going to perish? You know, at times, Richard, we really have to accept that yes, he's the president. We pray for him to succeed. We need to support him even in areas where we find his thoughts are in consonant with reality. But we cannot equate the president of a republic, whether it's William Ruto or any other person in future, that prosperity in Kenya is equal to so-and-so being in power. It is sacrilege, to say the least. It is blasphemous. It is against the grain. And now you are saying, yes, we as Christians may celebrate that, but not all Christians, because it is going against the basic doctrine of religion. I do not want to talk about the character of Benny Hill, because this is not within my purview. But there is enough evidence that he has had a number of challenges, and he cannot therefore say is beyond reproach. That is what I believe is strongly so, that we have to guard this space. Even if the president is a Christian, remember tomorrow the president can be a Hindu or a Muslim or any other religion for that particular matter. And therefore we must guard areas of God, we must approach carefully. Finally, on that particular issue, remember religion was used at the beginning of time, about 70 plus 60 years ago, 130 years ago, for purposes of softening the feelings of the Africans. And when religion was brought, the Mzungu never brought religion as he is in the doctrines. He brought his own character, where the Mzungu's wife was called Memsap, and he was called Bwana, and the rest of us was seen to be lower beings. Finally, they come with an issue that everything African is inferior, to the extent that our cows were called Shenzi, because they were said called Shenzi cows, because they did not belong to that exotic breed. Today, as well as you do, the Maasai cattle all over Narok and many other places are known to be the best in terms of meat consumption, meat conversion. We therefore means if we really want to get into livestock farming, you need to get, especially for beef, you need to get the best through conversion ratio, the Cebu and the Maasai cattle. So in short, Richard, I think Kenyans have had enough of this hoodwinking.
Very well.
Yep.
Are we at a place as a country whereby we are seeing more of commercialization of religion?
You have put it very well. I can't agree with you beyond that. Yes, we are commercializing religion. We are almost indoctrinating people into believing on individuals. Religion is supposed to consider all of us dispassionately.
Very well.
Yep.
That of the way, and straight to the day's conversation. How about we start from the recent publication by one of the leading magazines, Daily Nation, which has actually come forth and deplored the president to tone down on his element of believing that he's of more importance to the nation, and there's need for him to actually, I should actually tell you how it was actually publicized. And it says, Ruto's sense of self-importance is bad for Kenya. Which begs the question, do you consider President Ruto to be someone who is big on feeling he knows it all, he's a master of all trades, and there's need for him to tone down so that maybe the country can be steered with other people who also who have other expertise?
Yeah, in terms of leadership, and I've had a chance to study one or two papers in leadership, the hallmark of leadership is humility. The humbler you are, the better a leader you are likely to be. Humility in all contexts. In terms of even wealth acquisition, you must be humble, use the means that you can afford. And that's why I always invoke the name of the late president of Tanzania, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, when he was in his village in Butiama, and we had the privilege of being his neighbors. He could go to the farm and farm like any other villager, and you go seeing him, he will give you possibly a djembe, so that you just talk as you hold whether it's pamba, cotton, or whatever activity he was doing. And at lunchtime, a Land Rover brings him lunch, and whoever he's with, whether there are 10 people or 3 people, they eat together as they converse. That is the hallmark of humility. Nyerere owned almost nothing. When he died, he had the equivalent in his account of $10,000.
Paltry $10,000?
$10,000. The house that was built for him by the government, he never lived in it, because he still found the old house that he had built when he was a teacher was still befitting for him to stay there. I'm told in one of the occasions, he went and he said, "Oh, this is too big. Are you building for an elephant, or are you building for me?" So anyway, in essence, any position of leadership is an opportunity or privilege to serve mankind or humankind or human nature. Therefore, you do not exalt yourself to a position of privilege that you know everything. And you see, the higher you go in terms of academic excellence, the humbler you ought to be, because you will come to the realization that yes, by the time you're in primary and you are good at maths, you think you know all the maths in the world. When you go to Form 1, you realize there is still more to learn. When you go to tertiary institution, university, you realize there is algebra and other complex equations that you ought to learn more. And by the time you do your master's, you realize that you have to narrow now to a specific area for you to have the time to do the research. By the time you are a PhD, it is even a narrow, which therefore tells you there is so much knowledge in the world. Even by those who have not gone to school, they know something. You go back to Kablamite today, there are guys who know everything about that locality, but they may not know Eldoret. Once they get to Eldoret, you have to hold their hand to cross the street. But they know something about their locality. So knowledge is a relative thing. And therefore, we would want to beseech our president to be less haughty, to be more humble, and to realize that not everything can be done under even a period of 10 years. Kenya is a going concern. Other presidents will come and improve on whatever the current president will have done.
Sure. Now let's shift gears and talk matters of political interest. And you've been in the political arena for quite a while, actually for a long time. And it is said people get into politics for all manner of interest. Does that somehow explain why we've seen a recent sort of mass exodus, because it has been published, of Mount Kenya billionaires decamping from Raila's side to President Ruto's side? Is it for their own personal business interest or what?
Well, they could be scared of repression. People can get scared of repression, especially when the regime seems to be weaponizing taxation, using taxes as a way of trying to put you into size. So that could be a convenient way of saying, instead of fighting him, let us do whatever he wants in the intervening period, because after all, politics is transient and somebody is not likely to be there for long. I remember any minister getting into a ministry, officers, if you don't listen to them, they say, we've seen many come and go. And this one will also go the way the other one left yesterday. So as you celebrate getting into a ministry and you think you are the most important individual in town, remember, look at the board. How many ministers have been there before you? And therefore, remember, many more are to come. You are just a footnote in the process of transition.
Very well.
Yeah.
And now shifting gears to matters Mount Kenya East politics, because today it was a cocktail of several subjects in the world of politics. And how about we start from the discussion from many people in Mount Kenya, and especially those who feel it is high time Kambas, Merus, the Embus stop playing second fiddle to the Gikuyu community when it comes to the political interest and future of the Mount Kenya bloc. What is your analysis on that, and what do you think is your recommendation? Don't you think this is a subject and convention that will divide further the mountain?
Well, what worries me is that Kenya, we seem to pigeonhole politics into tribal conclaves. I would prefer that we say, yes, we as a bloc from this region, because there are so many things in common, apart from the language that may just vary from Kirinyaga to Embu, from Embu to Meru, from Meru to Tharaka, and all the way to Kiambu, and perhaps to Trans Nzoia, because there are also people of this region in Trans Nzoia. We should be spending more time saying who is the most suitable among our sons and daughters who have offered themselves for leadership. Because that, for me, is a more progressive way of looking at politics. Because if we say we are thinking collectively, it may not be true, because that is likely to be mob justice. Because, you know, the Kikuyu curse has been something that at times people don't spend time to consider it fully. Of course, there was the accusation at the beginning, before they elected President William Ruto, almost to the man, that Kikuyus have never voted for anybody since independence, other than one of their own. But that now has been demystified, that they can vote for anybody as long as you prove you are worth the salt. Now, in the same vein, as you know, the Mount Kenya region, there is a bigger block west of the mountain than the east of the mountain. And therefore, as we navigate politically, and as a student of politics, we need to almost dissect and try to identify what are the common elements that we can now use as a rallying point. How do we improve trust? Because as I always emphasized, Richard, the main challenge in Kenya, and that's why we have a plethora of parties, is lack of trust. We don't trust each other. The moment we trust each other, will spend more time looking for the most suitable person to do the job instead of looking from which village does he come from.
Very well. Also, part of the narrative going on in the mountain is that, and especially is around the conversation of where are the Jeremiah Nyagas of this day in Mount Kenya East, where are the Jackson Angaines of this day. And they're imploring Kithure Kindiki, CS Interior, to fit in the shoes of such reputable names from that side of the mountain and literally be the voice of reason anytime they get into the negotiation table on matters of political interest and all that. Do you feel that there's a sense and ounce of truth in that imploration from a number of people in Mount Kenya?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Personally, I've saw my time for Kindiki Kithure. I find him level-headed leader. Personally, I would have supported him for the position of deputy president. And of course, when there was the issue of voting, as I've said before, out of 31 members of parliament, 27 voted for Professor Kindiki Kithure Kindiki. And 4 of them voted for the current deputy president. Those are facts. We had that meeting up to midnight on Saturday, and the following day before midday, the presidential candidate for UDA announced Rigathi Gachagua as the preferred candidate. And for purposes of informing Kenyans, I remember in the speech made by the president, and because the president may have a chance to watch this clip, he said they were going to retire with Rigathi Gachagua. I don't know why the media never picked that. He said, we've agreed with my colleague that they are going to retire in 2032, which means if they are together in this particular election, it will be their last bid. And if Rigathi still thinks that he's going to overstretch his chance, his boss may not approve of it. And it brings another fundamental thing, Richard. The role of deputy president and the role of deputy governor. One, that position has not been insulated sufficiently so that somebody is not harassed, whether it's a deputy governor or a deputy president. Insulation in the sense that they don't seem to give more value to that office. At times it's better to be a CEC because you have some kind of vote to run. But a deputy governor does not have that. And you are at the mercy of the governor. The governor can engineer impeachment against you to be spearheaded by the MCS. The deputy president seems to have the same problem, unless you have some strength. And that's why the deputy president has been trying to make his voice heard by saying, I'm the leader of the region, that position does not matter. So it is something that when you look at it in terms of governance, it is a position that we need to insulate and allow it to flourish. Finally, on that particular issue of deputy president or deputy governor, I would rather in future, in the constitutional arrangement process, we make sure that if you are a deputy president, you don't run in the subsequent election if you want to run for president. You freeze your chances so that there is a haters period of 5 years, then you can run when you do not have the encumbrances of wanting to succeed the president while the president wants his agenda to succeed. You realize that that was the main struggle between President William Ruto and our former president Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta wanting to have a legacy, and William Ruto wanting to take over from Kenyatta. So these are some things that let's not look at it with a William Ruto in mind or Rigathi Gachagua. Let us look at it as how do we create some kind of system in Kenya that is ours. Let's not talk about America or any other place. And even if you are to use America, it doesn't happen. Not many vice presidents have taken over through an election. Many of them either through death or they have to go out for some time, including the current president, Joe Biden. He had to give a chance to Hillary Clinton to run for the presidency. She failed. Then she came in after there was a period of 5 years that he was not running for president.
Very well.
Yep.
And how far or close is Kithure Kindiki to live in or scaling to the heights of Jeremiah Nyagas and Jackson Angaine in Mount Kenya East politics? Your general analysis on that.
There are a number of factors that will affect him. One is his own personality in terms of how much can he punch. That I do not know, because he's a nice guy, but politics is not about nice guys. It's about effective guys. So is he going to be effective? That's a question that I cannot answer. Angaine came from the larger Meru. Kithure Kindiki comes from the Tharaka section of the Meru. So I do not know how the politics will sit in within that particular area. Remember, Jeremiah Nyaga came from a smaller community than Mbere, and he was suspected almost to be closer to the Kamba and to have some kind of lineage with the Kamba. But you know, he rose at the right time, because also politics, timing is everything. At the right time, scaled the ladder to national politics, remained there, and remember, he never lost an election. He actually retired. The time perhaps he would have lost, because the situation on the ground was in favor of DP, because Kanu was being forced out of the political landscape of Embu. So many things happen, and I will not be averse to supporting Kindiki were he to rise to any position of leadership.
Very well.
Because I know he has all the credentials, except possibly his own motile force. Motile force is the force that is from inside you. How much can you shoot?
The fire in your belly.
The fire in your belly.
Very well.
Yeah, you put it better.
I try.
I'm happy you are learning English.
I am.
Yeah.
By the day. From the teacher himself.
Oh, okay.
And very lastly,
Yes.
you are quite versed with political tricks that oftentimes opponents will deploy to achieve their interests. And let me ask you, do you consider there to be an underhand that is fueling the conversations of the day in Mount Kenya is that it is time we take a front row seat in gamer politics? Could that be one of the tricks to further divide the Mount Kenya?
Well, I do not, at times my mind, I never engage in suspicion. What I know is that in politics, you can never be anointed, especially the politics of this world. It has happened elsewhere, like in the Soviet Union and even in China. You can almost know who is going to scale the ladder. Mzee Nyerere in Tanzania was able to assist to have that transition. Many people don't know why Nyerere decided at the age of 50-something that he was going to retire. He was to retire in 1980 when he was about 58. But there was a strong team by lady leaders, women leaders in Tanzania, who prevailed upon him that give us more time. So he stayed on for another 5 years. And at the age of 63, he said, we must give a chance to another generation. And that is how the word kung'atuka was brought into the Kiswahili language. That lazima viongozi wang'atuke ili vijana waingie katika madaraka. Because his desire was to see a transition that he can manage. And he was able to see two presidents. He saw Mwinyi succeed him and Mkapa succeed Mwinyi. And remember, it is Mkapa who announced the death of the president when it happened in St. Thomas in London. So, in a way, Nyerere wanted to see transition in his lifetime because he believed that the moment I see people succeed each other seamlessly in what we call peaceful transition, then that becomes the character of the nation. And the nation will have that kind of rhythm. And you can say it, Tanzania has got that rhythm. Here in Kenya, even the best of friends, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, they insulted each other towards the end. That you would wonder, were these people together at any time? Or were they lying to each other? And if they were not lying to each other, where did the rain start beating them? These are some of the issues that you may not be, don't be surprised if towards the end, Rigathi, Gachagua and William Ruto will not be seeing eye to eye.
It could happen?
It could happen.
In our lifetime?
In our lifetime, and sooner than later. Yeah.
Well, there you have it from a man who has history at his fingertips, the thought leader and think tank himself, former cabinet minister Ruto Arap Kirwa. Talking a plethora of issues in the world of politics and governance, we've talked about the future of Interior CS Kithure Kindiki and what elements he needs to embed in his political style so that he can have a formidable future and also a formidable legacy that will go ahead of him. We've also talked matters to do with the conversation of the day in Mount Kenya politics and also what President Ruto needs to change or recalibrate further so that he can be a better leader and a president that many will remember and cherish for many years to come. That has been the conversation. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Ruto Arap Kirwa, Kongoi.
Kongoi Mise.
Asante sana for always coming here
and
being our resident analyst. We don't take it for granted.
Asante. It's also my pleasure. It allows me to remember things I'm likely to forget. And as President Reagan said, that it takes others to remind us what we believe in.
Well,
it takes others to remind us what we believe in. So at times you remind me what I believe in.
Oh, I can be that useful.
Yeah, you are.
To a former minister.
Any day.
Any day, any time.
Yeah, yep. Thank you.
Asante sana. Until next time, asante sana. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.